Today we will be tying the double bunny. It is a streamer and imitates a bait fish or small fish. And similar to the clouser or minnow, this particular fly rides in the water hook point up. The hook we will be using is a Stinger size 4. And the particular hook I'm using is a Gamakatsu B10S Stinger. I will be tying the underside of the fly in a cream color rabbit zonker, and basically I want the rabbit zonker strip to be twice the length of the shank of the hook, and we'll go ahead and cut that. The top portion of the fly, I'm going to be using a chartreuse rabbit zonker, and again twice the length of the shank of the hook. And when you cut this one, just go ahead and cut it a little longer than needed, because you'll trim it to match the length of the first bottom rabbit zonker perfectly. Thread I'll be using is olive UTC ultra thread in size 140, and I'm going to go ahead and start my thread directly behind the eye of the hook. And establish a thread base half the length of the shank, and then come forward half that distance, leaving your thread about 1/4 of the length of the shank of the hook. And we're going to be tying on some lead eyes, in this case size medium or 3/16 of an inch. And when tying in lead eyes, you want to make sure they are perpendicular to the shank of the hook and centered left to right on the shank of the hook. And then you're going to take cross wraps and figure eights. To tie them in. And to really lock them in, if you take your thread below the lead eye and above the shank of the hook on both sides, creating a circle, you really lock those thread wraps in. And also a drop of super glue really helps lock them in. Now we're going to put the bottom, as the fly rides in the water, the bottom rabbit zonker in first. And you want to tie this directly in front of the eyes, and then after that's tied in, bring your thread underneath the lead eyes and behind them.
wet your fingers with a little bit of water and go ahead and work the zonker strip fibers fur up, exposing the leather strip or hide strip, and then you're going to tie them in directly behind the lead eye. Now lift up the rest of the zonker strip and advance your thread along the shank of the hook until the start of the bend, which is just slightly behind the point of the hook. Again, wet your fingers and work the fur up away from the hide. And now we're going to tie the strip in at the very back. And you want to try to keep it centered on the shank of the hook as best you can. And once I do that, I like to put in a half hitch. Now, bring your thread up along the shank of the hook underneath the lead eyes and return it back to behind the eye of the hook. Now at this point, you're going to want to invert your hook in your vise, or if you have a rotary vise, flip the hook over, exposing what will be the top of the fly as it rides through the water. Now take your other zonker strip and hold it up to see where the strip will meet the first strip. And when you get that location, you're going to run the hook through the center of the strip like so. Remove it from your vise and continue to work the zonker strip down onto the shank of the hook. Once you do that, you should have a zonker strip that is captured by the hook. And what I like to do here is I'm going to take my thread back away from the eye of the hook, just slightly to give me some space. And I grab onto the zonker strip with a pair of pliers and pull it snug. And then capture the zonker strip with your thread, making sure to maintain tension, and start tying in the strip. Once it's secured, you can lift up this very front tag in and trim the excess. Now it's a matter of just cleaning up the cut zonker strip.
Once you have the front cleaned up, you can go ahead and whip finish your fly. And cut or break your tying thread. Apply a touch of head cement to your whip finish. Now I'm going to line up the two strips on the back, and since we left the green strip longer, we're going to trim it to match the white strip in length. And something else I like to do is take a very small amount of super glue and apply it to the hide of one strip, and then basically glue the two strips together at the very tip. Take a brush just to clean it up. And that is all there is to tying a double bunny streamer.